Have you ever paused to consider how fast a royal love story can spiral into something that resembles a slow-motion collapse? Prepare yourself, because one woman's startling confession has fractured the carefully polished Sussex narrative, and almost no one foresaw how quickly it would unravel. A previously anonymous figure, now stepping into the light under the initials DL, has surfaced with allegations so staggering they dwarf every scandal that came before. She's not claiming to be an incidental participant or a faceless donor hidden away behind the scenes. DL insists she was the hidden surrogate who carried both Archie and Lilibet into the world. And she's adamant she holds the documents to prove every word. When the story first broke, most people waved it off. Another baseless theory. Another internet spectacle soon to fade away. But then DL went public, serene and composed, as if she'd been rehearsing this confrontation for years. Looking straight into the cameras, she declared, "I was promised protection and payment. Instead, they erased me from the story." That's when the revelations began pouring out in waves. DL presented what she described as irrefutable evidence. Hospital paperwork matching the dates of the children's births, financial records showing large transfers, and signed non-disclosure agreements from before the pregnancies were ever announced. Should any of these materials hold up to scrutiny, this isn't just an embarrassing secret. It's a deception with consequences that could disrupt the very structure of the British crown. It wasn't merely the content of DL's claims that caused an uproar. It was the precise, unsettling way she recounted her experience. Months confined in secrecy, transported between secure residences, isolated from any outside contact, while Meghan's associates reportedly controlled every medical appointment and conversation. What was once a flawless arrangement started showing cracks. As her words echoed around the globe, old rumors burst back into circulation like embers igniting dry grass. You may recall the footage of Meghan's baby bump, the clips that critics ridiculed for looking unnatural. Those videos, once shrugged off as nothing more than peculiar camera angles, took on a much darker significance in the wake of DL's testimony. Suddenly, millions were revisiting them, scrutinizing every frame and asking themselves, had the public been duped all along? And those inconsistencies didn't end there. Consider the peculiar way Archie's birth was handled in 2019. No eager photographers crowding outside a hospital entrance, no glowing parents posing for the world's press. Just Harry, standing awkwardly beside a stable, vaguely announcing that the baby had arrived. Back then, it was chalked up to an insistence on privacy. In retrospect, it seems eerily convenient. The intrigue only deepened days later when Archie's birth certificate was quietly amended. Meghan's full name vanished, replaced by the formal title Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. At the time, it was described as a minor correction, and Meghan claimed she hadn't approved it. But legal experts have begun speculating it may have been an effort to prevent any future accusations of fraudulent documentation if DL's assertions are confirmed. Through it all, the Sussexes remained conspicuously absent. No press conferences. No swift rebuttal. No statements denouncing DL's claims as fabrications. Instead, their attorneys dispatched private warnings to media outlets, cautioning them against amplifying the story. Yet when a woman offers to take a DNA test and your only reply is a legal threat, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Buckingham Palace, too, chose to remain officially neutral. Spokespersons reiterated that Meghan and Harry are no longer senior royals and thus outside the palace's jurisdiction. But behind closed doors, senior aides were reportedly poring over centuries-old records, consulting constitutional advisors, and weighing how the monarchy could respond if DL's proof is undeniable. Because at its heart, this isn't about gossip. It's about whether Archie and Lilibet are genuinely heirs to royal standing. Centuries of tradition have dictated that royal births must be transparent, publicly acknowledged, and beyond dispute. If the children were delivered by a surrogate whose existence was deliberately hidden, the entire institution faces a legal and ethical crisis unlike anything before. As one constitutional scholar remarked, if these assertions prove accurate, it would be the most significant legitimacy challenge in modern royal history. As these revelations spread, reports began to emerge painting Harry as increasingly distressed. Friends described him as exhausted, volatile, and paranoid about who might have leaked the story. One former aide confided, "He's losing his grip. He thought he could control the narrative, but it's slipping away." Another insider suggested that Harry himself has started questioning whether Meghan's inner circle kept secrets even from him. Meghan, meanwhile, vanished from public life. No podcast episodes, no glossy social media updates, no strategic public appearances. For someone renowned for managing her image, her total retreat spoke volumes. Behind the gates of their California estate, the atmosphere reportedly turned tense and combative. Those familiar with the situation described the couple's home as increasingly fraught. Meghan allegedly furious at Harry for failing to quash the story, Harry feeling isolated and powerless, staff quietly dismissed, and lucrative partnerships put on hold. Companies once eager to bask in their brand have begun distancing themselves. Yet the most disconcerting figure in all of this is DL herself. She isn't hiding. She isn't frightened. She has publicly invited any lawsuit, declaring she will testify and submit to DNA analysis by neutral laboratories. Her unwavering confidence has left many wondering, what evidence does she have that makes her so unafraid? Public's trust in the Sussexes has cratered. Polls now show their popularity reaching record lows. Even celebrities and commentators who once defended them have grown silent. Podcasts that once lionized Meghan's personal story are quietly deleting old episodes, and influencers are scrubbing their feeds. For the monarchy, the stakes could hardly be higher. If even part of DL's narrative is validated, the crown will face questions that could redefine the institution. Some insiders whisper that Archie and Lilibet's titles are already under discreet review. Others predict an unavoidable legal inquiry into their place in the line of succession. For many observers, Meghan and Harry's silence is looking less like poise and more like panic. Over the years, Meghan has never shied away from correcting false narratives. She has launched lawsuits, published statements, and given interviews. This time, there is nothing but a void. That silence is quickly filling with speculation, with doubt, with a growing conviction that the polished fairy tale they presented to the world was built on sand. Even their most steadfast supporters are asking, if there's nothing to hide, why won't you just show the truth? Meanwhile, DL has delivered an ultimatum of her own: acknowledge reality or I will. She claims to hold one final piece of evidence, a document she calls her ace, which she insists will end the debate once and for all. No one is certain what it contains, but insiders fear it could be the bombshell that settles everything. And so, the world remains riveted, watching a royal saga once celebrated as progressive and genuine now teeter on the brink of collapse. The question isn't whether the truth will surface, it's when and how devastating it will be when it does. Because history has a habit of proving that no secret remains hidden forever. And when the truth emerges, it has the power to shatter even the most enduring institutions. The facade is splintering. Countdown has begun. And every eye is fixed on what comes next. Yet beneath all the headlines and intrigue lies a quieter tragedy, the impact on Archie and Lilibet themselves. Imagine growing up knowing the world dissected your very existence, wondering whether you were ever truly born to the woman who raised you. It's a legacy of doubt that may shadow them all their lives. Those close to Meghan say she's never felt more cornered. She's weathered cruel attacks and relentless headlines, but this is something different. This isn't about disagreements or image. This is about whether the entire foundation of her family's story was ever real. Even her most devoted allies are struggling to defend her silence. Inside the palace, advisors are reviewing dusty legal tomes and consulting constitutional historians to prepare for the possibility that DL will present definitive proof. For a royal institution built on unbroken lines and precedent, the idea of rewriting the rules of succession is almost too daunting to contemplate. Among the public, opinions are split. Some see a coordinated effort to destroy a woman who dared to modernize an ancient dynasty. Others feel betrayed, convinced that anyone who claims royal privilege has an obligation to be honest, and that silence now is nothing short of arrogance. And in the shadows of this spectacle, darker theories abound. Did the Sussexes threaten staff into compliance? Were official records tampered with? Or is this all part of a coordinated attempt to obliterate their reputation? With no clarity, every possibility feels plausible. Perhaps the most remarkable twist is how quickly DL has upended years of carefully built narrative. For so long, Harry and Meghan were shielded by sympathetic media and devoted followers. Now, even their closest friends are standing back, waiting to see if they will finally address the accusations or keep retreating behind lawyers. It's a cruel irony. They left royal life determined to tell their story in their own words. But in the face of the gravest claims of all, it's their silence that is shaping a version of events they can no longer control. And that may be the version that history remembers. As the weeks pass, the tension only thickens. Every day without a clear response fuels an atmosphere of mounting disbelief. Comment sections on royal coverage are flooded with the same refrain. What are they waiting for? It's as though the Sussexes, once masters of the media game, have suddenly decided that silence is their only refuge, even as it becomes their biggest liability. In households across Britain, the story has become the centerpiece of dinner table debates and late-night discussions. Older generations, who remember the formality and restraint of Queen Elizabeth's reign, are aghast that the royal line could be mired in such opaque controversy. Younger Britons, who once admired Meghan for her outspokenness and modern approach, are starting to wonder if she was ever as transparent as she claimed. Meanwhile, historians are quietly compiling timelines, comparing DL's documents with publicly available records. Already, small inconsistencies in official statements and dates are beginning to emerge. While none of them amount to definitive proof, they're enough to keep the story alive and to bolster DL's credibility in the eyes of the curious public. Public relations experts have begun speculating that the Sussexes are trapped in a dilemma. If they ignore DL, they risk letting her shape the entire narrative. If they challenge her in court, they open themselves up to discovery, a process that could expose private communications and agreements they've fought to keep hidden. Either path carries the possibility of lasting damage to their reputation. The longer this drags on, the more it becomes about something bigger than one woman's allegations. It has evolved into a referendum on how much modern institutions can still rely on the public's goodwill. In an era when every claim can be amplified and dissected in real time, the old strategy of dignified silence is starting to look woefully outdated. And beyond the headlines, there's a growing sense of unease in Hollywood and the publishing world, industries that have heavily invested in the Sussexes' image. Production companies that signed multi-million-dollar deals are now quietly assessing their exposure if the scandal worsens. Memoirs, documentaries, and branded projects that once seemed bulletproof are suddenly under review, their future uncertain. No matter what comes next, this saga has already left a permanent mark. It has shown just how quickly a carefully curated fairy tale can be dismantled by a single relentless voice armed with receipts. Whether DL's final evidence proves conclusive or not, the damage is done. A seed of doubt has been planted so deeply that no press release or Instagram post is likely to uproot it.